going back down the mountain. So it's tough to say that it is a rebuilding year, but right now I guess hopefully we're playing for pride.
Lincoln, what about you?
Yeah, I have to agree. I think this is really a rebuilding year. Like you said, last year, I started to, towards the end of the season especially, I started to feel that this is really going to take a lot of work to fix in the coming years. Lots of young guys, like you said, don't have a main quarterback yet. We still don't coming into today's game. Depth chart, it still says it still says or, so it's not really a set quarterback. So yeah, I really do think this is a rebuilding year for us.
What about you, Michael?
I definitely agree with them. It's a rebuilding year for us this year. We have a lot of young guys, a lot of true freshmen, and our defense is very young. So I feel like as the season goes on and the guys get more experience and get their feet wet with the game, hopefully we improve and win some games.
Yeah, I think it's tough. For me, it's tough to say whether or not this is a rebuilding year, just because it's such an odd year. Not only was there COVID this year, but we had that coaching shakeup at the end of last year, and then at the beginning of this year, we lost our quarterbacks coach due to some really unfortunate circumstances. So Coach Luttrell is really wearing a lot of different hats right now. I have a lot of respect for him as a coach. But Lincoln, I want to ask you, do you think he's really on the hot seat this year? We're only 1-1. It might be a little early to say, but what do you think?
I think it's a little hard to say, but I would say that right now you kind of have to look and just think maybe we should be putting him on the hot seat, because the head coach is the coach. He's supposed to get wins for the team, and we haven't really seen very much profit since the 2018 season. So yeah, I would say that it's time to really start looking, and possibly he could be on the hot seat right now. Jack,
what about you?
I'm not going to say he's on the hot seat. I think it's starting to heat up a little bit. With one win today, he's the 6th winningest coach in UNT history. It doesn't seem like a lot, but he will be the 6th winningest coach. And what he's done for our program carries a little bit more than a coach that continually loses. He built the program up. He built Denton to be more of a college town. So I think that does factor in to not just the play on the field, but also in what he's done for the city. But I mean, if you continue to lose, I think that the AD and a couple other people have to come together and think that might be time for him to move on.
And you have to think about who they're playing right now, because today, first conference game coming up today against Southern Miss. So the games that we've been in so far this season, they don't matter right now. It's conference play. This is the time that really matters. So how we play in the next coming weeks is how I think it'll really define whether he's on the seat or not.
Michael, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say he's on the hot seat this year, because this is not his first year. This is not his second year. This is his 5th year coaching for UNT, and his record, I believe, is 28-26, which isn't the worst. He has done some great things in his 5-year tenure, but I just believe if we don't make a bowl game this year, he's going to have to kick rocks.
Again, it's really, really tough for me to say whether or not it's a hot seat year, just because there is, so many things going on this year. I mean, we could have had another game under our belt, but last week we actually had to cancel our game against Houston. Well, technically maybe postpone, so we'll see about that later in the season. Do you think that really affects us for the rest of the season, Jack?
It might affect our morale. I really don't think we were going into the game thinking we were going to win. Maybe it helped us not be down in the dumps, because I think Houston would have run over us, and that might have affected our morale. But it comes down to player safety. If the players aren't safe, then of course they can't play. And CUSA, they need as much money. UNT needs as much money as possible. So if they're canceling the game, there was significant concern. So I think yes, the game should have been canceled.
Lincoln, how do you think?
Yeah, I would have to agree. First off, that I think we would have gotten, needless to say, our butts kicked by Houston last week. But yeah, it does come down to player safety, and really, it's just I don't think it really affects the season, because I think we all kind of expected at least one game to get canceled because of COVID. It's just happening all over. Even professional level teams getting games canceled, like the Patriots game got canceled today, or postponed actually. But yeah, I don't think it really affects us, because really we all sort of expected it, and so we can just bounce back from it and try to carry on with the rest of the season.
Yeah, Michael, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I agree with them. COVID is real. The coronavirus is real. So 4 players got tested, and unfortunately they came back positive. So they had to do what they had to do and cancel the game. And we saw what happened last year against U of H. They stomped us. So I guess we avoided another beating this year. So we'll see what happens today against Southern Miss.
Yeah, I agree. I really think it's all about player safety. But let's actually throw it over to Apogee Stadium to our reporter, Zach Fox. He's going to let us know what Coach Luttrell said about that this week. Zach?
Thanks, Sarah. After another premature bye week for the Mean Green, head coach Seth Luttrell sat down with media Tuesday and got his thoughts on what this another bye week does to his team and the mentality and the momentum heading forward. And coach stated, anytime you miss a game, you're missing an opportunity. Not only an opportunity to get better, but an opportunity to go out and compete. Coach has been using basically that same term and that same phrase, going out and compete, basically since day one to his squad. He's been looking for this moment, and right now, while this halt after every game is really starting to put a damper in his game plans. Now, as far as what he did in the basic quick off-season or break during the week off, head coach started getting a few guys in different areas. He said, just try to get some guys in some different reps, some of these young guys who are having to step into some roles, and maybe some different roles. He didn't specify on whether offense or defense, or if that's a quarterback, or as simple as, the defensive side of things with a corner. He's able to switch some guys around just in case the what-if factor, if we need momentum, if we have injuries. He wants to make sure that he has multiple guys who can do multiple roles to do everything it is for UNT to succeed. Now, as far as the quarterback issue, we still have Jason Bean and Austin Ani competing for the #1 quarterback position. When asked again on who's going to come out and play for most of the game, coach with the same response, same place I did before. Once we trot the first guy out there, if he gets hot, we'll stick with him. That's how it works. Jason Bean got the start in game 2 after a hot game 1 against HBU, but Austin Ani got most of the start for the rest of the game. So we'll see if Ani gets the nod to start off the technically third game of the season here against Southern Miss. So far, the series is tied 7-all. We'll see if UNT can go 500 in the all-time series lead and go above 500 in the 2020 season so far. Back to you, Sarah, at the front desk.
Thanks, Zach. I know definitely all of us are for sure hoping for an above 500 finish. But when we come back, this has been a crazy football season so far. A lot of surprises and some disappointments. We'll let us know what you think after. We'll let you guys know what we think when we come back.
Play Eric Amarola's Race Day mix.
In America, the zip code you're born in can determine your future. The Y helps fill the opportunity gap with education programs for all. For a better us, support your local Y today.
Your voice, your vote. In our democracy, they matter. Make yours count. Get registered, learn the issues, and vote by or on November 3rd. Visit vote411.org. This message is furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you. Your dog walker.
On your left.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Again, I'm here with Michael, Lincoln, and Jack. It has been a very interesting college football season so far, especially because of COVID-19. Boys, I want to ask you, what team has really surprised you early in the season? Lincoln, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, really, Vanderbilt has really surprised me this season. Their game against A&M, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, last week, but their previous game against Texas A&M, I remember thinking, oh, easy win for A&M, but Vanderbilt really stepped up, made it difficult for them to win. Even though they're 0-1, I think that they're really stepping it up, and I've been really impressed with them this season.
Jack, what about you?
See, I went against the curve, and I've actually picked two teams this week. I
Oh.
went with UTEP, and I went with UTSA. Two normally bottom-of-the-barrel teams in CUSA, but now you have UTSA, who was 3-0. They just lost to UAB this morning, 21-13. But they also beat Texas State, SFA, and Middle Tennessee. They're not the best teams in the world they're beating, but also they're beating them. They went 4-8 last year in as a total, and they didn't do too well in conference, but they're actually beating teams that they're supposed to be beating, which isn't something you'd normally say with UTSA. And then flipping the script to UTEP, UTEP's even worse than UTSA normally is, but they're 2-1 this year. And last year they went 1-11, and now they're 2-1. So they're already better than they were last year. They're off to their best start since 2010, and this is the most wins they've had since 2014. Yes, they did beat SFA, Abilene Christian, and ULM, which aren't the best teams in the world, but they lost to Texas, so you can't really hang your head too low on that one. But when you're 1-11 last year and you have really anybody has no real hope in your season, you come out and you start relatively decent, it's good to see, and that's why I think they're the hot team.
Yeah, I actually really agree with you about UTEP and UTSA. UTSA played UAB earlier today. The other week when we were talking about who we really feel strongly about in CUSA, we all said UAB, and they held their own. UAB came out with the win, but UTSA really held their own in that game. So, Michael, who's really shocked you this year?
For me, I'm gonna have to go with Mississippi State. The last time I remember them being relevant was when they had Dak Prescott, but we all saw their upset against LSU, and they really balled out, led by their quarterback, KJ Castillo, who threw for a whopping 663 yards, 5 touchdowns. They're solid. They have like 3 wideouts that had over 100 receiving yards that game, so I feel like they're gonna be a force to be reckoned with in the SEC this year.
Yeah, I always root pretty hard for the Mississippi teams, grew up in Mississippi, so it was really good to see Mississippi State kind of come out with that win. Again, Dak Prescott's alma mater, shout out to him. Jack, who's disappointed you so far this year?
Well, it's not more of what team hasn't disappointed me, it's the Big 12 total. They are, hey, horns down, baby. just another team that just doesn't seem to know what, really doesn't have an identity to start the year. Oklahoma's another team. They lost early. You have Kansas, who's down by 44 right now. Week 2, they go 0-3 total against the Sun Belt. So you have a conference known for its offense, known for winning, loses, and everyone's losing. It's weird. Baylor, of course, hasn't really played a lot yet because of COVID. So as of right now, they're starting off way too slow than what we think they should. People were saying Texas should be in the playoffs, Oklahoma should be in the playoffs. That's funny because both of them lost. I'm filled with joy that both of them lost, but Big 12 as a whole, not doing too hot.
I mean, we all know you're a hater, Jack, especially of the Longhorns, but Lincoln, moving on to you, who's really disappointed you this year?
Well, I hate to go against my school here, but UNT has really been disappointing to me this season. I mean, I feel like we all kind of expected that they wouldn't have a very strong season, but after that, albeit Houston Baptist, I really was like, maybe this will change, but no. If we would have had a regular season, we would probably be 1-2 right now. And with the new defensive coordinator, I kind of figured, maybe this is a time for our defense to improve and sort of get better. But I haven't seen anything. We're probably just as good, if not maybe just a tiny bit better than last season, but still nowhere where we should be.
High expectations from Lincoln on UNT, but Michael, who's your disappointment?
For me, I'm gonna have to go with Louisville. They have back-to-back losses against Pitt and Miami, and their quarterback has thrown 5 interceptions in 3 games, so he needs to improve on his decision-making overall. They were once in the AP top 25, ranked about 18 or 16, and now they're no longer even ranked, so I feel like they need to step it up.
I feel the same way about Louisville. I expected a little bit more out of them this year. One team that has been on par with expectations always is Clemson. And for me, Trevor Lawrence just has a stranglehold on the race for the Heisman. Michael, do you agree with me on that one?
I agree with you 100%. Matter of fact, Trevor Lawrence is my pick for Heisman this year. We've seen what he's done in the past last year, and this year he's already off to a great start. He's a very efficient quarterback. He knows how to complete passes and not really make bad decisions throwing the ball. And he has great guys, great weapons around him with Travis Etienne and great wideout, so that will only help his case for Heisman.
So we got two guys over here for Trevor Lawrence. Lincoln, are you with Michael and me, or do you have somebody else that you like for the Heisman so far?
I agree with both of y'all. I also am picking Trevor Lawrence. He's been had two really great seasons with Clemson. He's off to a great start in his third season, 2 straight national championships in 2018 and last season. And I just see him like nothing but improvement, really. He's just improved in the past couple of seasons, so I really think that he's the front runner. I do have Spencer Rattler and Sam Ellinger also up near the top, but right now I have Trevor Lawrence up leading the pack.
I mean, I'm with you on Sam Ellinger. I always have him as a dark horse in my Heisman race. But Jack, I know you do not feel the same way. Who are you picking this year?
I'm going to go against the curve here. Everyone seems to be on the Trevor Lawrence train. I'm going to go with De'Aaron King, the quarterback out of Miami. He transferred from Houston and going to Miami. Nobody really knew what he could do. Miami's identity has always been defense. And coming in, we didn't really know what that offense was going to look like. Go 3 weeks later, De'Aaron King has over 780 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's beaten ranked Louisville. He's beaten Florida State. He killed Florida State at Florida State. So really, realistically, we didn't think he'd be doing what he's doing, and he has transformed that team to a team that we thought was going to be decent to a team that is on the cusp of being a playoff team.
Honestly, Jack, I hate to agree with you on anything, but Miami really has been impressive. Let's talk about the college football playoffs, though, now that you mention it. Do you have Miami in your top 4?
I do not.
Who's your top 4?
Okay, so I got safe. Of course, top 2 picks are pretty safe. You got Clemson, of course. They know how to win. Alabama, same deal. They know how to win. They've been there before. Don't expect them not to be there this year. And then kind of the last 2 teams are a little iffy. I'm going to go with Ohio State out of the Big Ten. I think Ohio State knows how to win. Might be a little difficult playing these games. They didn't really have an off season going in, so might be a little growing pains. So that might be an iffy one. And then I'm going to go with Florida. Florida doesn't play Alabama. They don't play Georgia. So I think they have the caliber of team to make the playoffs, and they don't have to play the teams that will make them lose and not be able to go to the playoff. So I think Florida's going to be a safe bet at that number 4 spot.
How about you, Lincoln?
Well, I have to say, Jack, I think we have a lot more in common than I thought.
Hey.
Yeah, I actually have the same 4: Clemson, Florida, Alabama, and Ohio State. They're all Clemson, Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State. They're really 3 very successful programs in the past few years. You can almost expect them to be there almost. Florida really shone out 3-0 for the first time. Sarah, I believe you mentioned it was 2012, the last time they went 3-0 to start the season. So, yeah, I think Florida will be making a push this year, so that's my 4.
Great minds think alike.
Oh, yeah. Well, I hate to have anybody else that really agrees with Jack, but I agree with both of you. I think Florida's been extremely impressive this year. First undefeated start since 2012. Michael, who do you have in your top 4 right now?
For me, I'm going to keep it simple and go with the top 4 teams in the nation right now. We all know about Alabama. They're known for winning. Clemson, we just talked about Trevor Lawrence and how great he is. I'm also going to go with Florida, and then rounding up my list, I'm going to go with Georgia.
Oh, so you've got Florida, Georgia, and Bama.
The Florida-Georgia line.
Florida-Georgia line.
SECs.
In my top 4 right now, I got Bama and Clemson just like everybody else. I'm going to go Ohio State, and I'm going to give the nod to Florida. But when we come back, we're going to hear from our resident college football expert, Connor Hibbett. His picks might surprise you, and I don't know if he's got Ohio State in that top 4, so stick around and find out. college football, but there's one guy here that knows a lot more than all of us. Connor Hibbett, he's our resident college football expert. He is going to give you his predictions for the rest of the season in Connor's Corner today. Connor, what you got for us?
Hey guys, thank you. Welcome to another week of Connor's Corner. Now, 2 weeks ago when I discussed my Group of 5 and Power 5 breakthroughs, I never had a chance to get to the Power 5. I meant to. So now I'm going to discuss my Power 5 breakthroughs. And this season, and for any season, I want to make something clear. When it comes to breakthrough teams, I look at breakthrough teams differently than I do with Cinderella or the Team of Destiny teams for that particular season, like this year. I look at those teams differently. For example, let's take 2019. LSU, they were a breakthrough team, obviously, but they were also a team of destiny. Why? Well, they won the national championship. They're a Cinderella team. They have one of the greatest teams of all time, if not the best team of all time. So that's a breakthrough team, and then add on a couple more things with the Cinderella factor. But a breakthrough team alone, so again, let's take 2019, for example, Utah, Baylor, Minnesota. They did not win their conference championships, nor did they win a national championship, but they were breakthrough teams because they surprised people for that given season. So for this season, I think those newcomers, not based on what happened last year, so I'm going to get to my playoff predictions later. I'll give my playoff predictions later, and I'm going to have a couple of teams in there that may surprise you. One of them is not a breakthrough team, while the other one is. I'll get to that as I move along with this segment. My 3 Power 5 breakthrough teams for this season: Texas, North Carolina, and Northwestern. Now, Texas, I know they're coming off a loss to TCU just a couple of hours ago. Gary Patterson and the Horned Frogs have their number here these last several years. But I still believe Texas overall is the best team in the Big 12, and ultimately, I believe at the end of the season and after the Big 12 championship, they will make it to the playoff. Again, I'll get to my playoff predictions here in a second. And then North Carolina, the Tar Heels, you look at the ACC, the conference they're in, there is no parity within the teams. And I believe the Tar Heels will have just enough or a little bit more than all of the other ACC teams outside of Clemson. I think North Carolina will finish second in that conference and finish with just a little bit more than the other teams. Northwestern, on the other hand, I believe will be the third best team in the Big Ten West at a 6-2 record. I'm going to get to my Big Ten predictions just here in a second. But Northwestern is my third Power 5 breakthrough team for this season. My Big Ten power rankings, I think Minnesota will finish first in the West Division. Penn State first in the East Division over the Buckeyes this year. They get them at home. It's a whiteout. It's Happy Valley. Although it may not be as happy this year with not as many fans being allowed in the stadium, but it's ultimately still going to be a tough road test for the Buckeyes, who lose a lot from their defense from last season. Indiana, Michigan, Maryland, Michigan State, and Rutgers to finish out the Big Ten East. I'm not as high on Michigan State, Maryland, and Rutgers as maybe what some others. Of course, I know Rutgers, not many people have them projected that high, but I'm not as high on Maryland and Michigan State. Now, I have Indiana at third over Michigan. Why? Michigan is 125th in the country in returning production. Now, experience always matters in college football with the returning players, but it could matter more this season with the lack of repetition that we have had over what was really a non-off season. So I think Indiana, with their returning production, which is 12th in the country, could show this season more than ever has before. So I have Indiana with a 5-3 record, though not a true breakthrough team. Then for the West Division, again, I already discussed, I have Minnesota in first, Wisconsin in second, Northwestern at 6-2, Illinois, Purdue, Iowa, and Nebraska. I do not believe there is a lot of difference between Illinois, Purdue, and Iowa, but I do think the Cornhuskers of Nebraska could finish 0-8, but they get a home victory, I believe, against Illinois. Now, Illinois this year is going to be a good team. They return 15 seniors, and they're starting 22 players. That's incredible. Lovie Smith has already talked about a few years ago that 2020 could be a special year. Now, with the way this season's gone and with the strictly Big Ten-only conference schedule, we will see what Illinois does, but I still believe Illinois will be a pretty good team. Notice how I have Iowa at 6th place in the Big Ten West Division. Don't let that fool you. The Hawkeyes are still going to be a good team led by their great coach and Kirk Ferentz. I still believe they're going to be a great team, but with the strictly conference schedule, they just may not be as strong with their record showing this season. Ultimately, let's talk about my playoff predictions, right? I've discussed the breakthroughs in the Big Ten power rankings. Let's get to the breakthroughs, or let's get to the playoff predictions. Alabama and Clemson at 1 and 2. When it comes to these two teams, I am not going to have anybody dethroning them. LSU's win over Alabama last year, that wasn't necessarily a dethrone. That was just having the best team of all time beating Alabama, which was still, by the way, a very close game in Tuscaloosa. So I'm not going to predict anybody to dethrone these two until somebody shows me consistency and multiple wins over the course of a decade. So Alabama, Clemson at 1 and 2, and Minnesota at 3, and Texas at 4. Minnesota with a little bit more of an advantage because I believe the Big Ten is a little bit stronger than the Big 12 this season. That's all I have for y'all for this week. Back to y'all in the studio.
Awesome, guys. Listen, he had Texas as a breakthrough team this year, and obviously they lost earlier today. Jack, as much as I don't want to, I'm going to start with you on this one. Talk to me about Texas.
Man, it feels good to actually see them lose. People were getting way too overhyped over their win over Texas Tech. Come on, y'all were down 16. Y'all beat a team that almost lost to Houston Baptist. That's like saying North Texas almost beat Texas. It's not the greatest thing in the world. Man, this is just another microcosm of the Tom Herman era. They've never started 3-0 under Tom Herman, but you know who has? UTSA. So realistically, they haven't. People keep saying Texas is back. Texas is a championship caliber team. Yes, they are a championship caliber team. They have the talent, but they're just not disciplined. They don't have the right coaching. Something bad always happens and they blame it on something else. It's just glorious to see them crash and burn. Ever since Mac Brown left, it's been great to see the downward slope of Texas. I could go on for days talking about how much I hate Texas, but I'm going to let my other friends talk a little bit.
Lincoln, You got anything better to say?
Well, I kind of want to go off. He mentioned they were a breakthrough team. I'll be honest, I don't really see Texas as a breakthrough per se. He also mentioned Northwestern having a very much of an improvement season this year. I think that is more of a breakthrough story. They ended 3-9 last year. Texas ending 8-5. I don't really see that as a breakthrough record. It's not quite a Cinderella record either, but I don't really see them as a Cinderella story this year. But it's not really a breakthrough team in my opinion. It's sort of just in the middle a little bit.
Michael, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel like this Texas loss was like a sneak peek because like the fact that Texas Tech took them to overtime, like that shouldn't happen. Texas Tech, a team that almost lost to HBU, like Jack said, so that's a big no-no. So I'm really not surprised today that they lost to TCU because of what happened in their last game. And yeah, we see their head coach, Tom Herman. I don't know what's going on. Like they have some good pieces with their star wide receiver, Brandon Eagles, and also their star quarterback, Sam Ehlinger. But yeah, I just feel like he was a better coach when he coached at U of H. But hopefully they can fix some things up and start winning some games.
I mean, listen, I really do like Tom Herman. I feel like he's a pretty good coach for this team. Unfortunately, TCU just seems to have Texas's number. Texas does not do well against TCU's defense historically. Sam Ehlinger doesn't do well against TCU's defense. So I think that was more what it was today. I'm not that worried about Texas. I think they pulled off a really good performance against Texas Tech. Having to come back and bring out a win like that says a lot about the character of a team. But Jack, you were saying that you think that they're not very well coached. Do you not like Tom Herman as the coach for this team?
It's hard to say. Tom Herman was a good coach at Houston. He really was. He was a coordinator at Ohio State, I believe, and he was really good there too. But there's just something about Tom Herman that, you know, he does the cool dances on the sideline with Sam Ehlinger. It's just the thing, you enjoy watching him lose. I can't really put it into words. He is a good coach, but I don't think he has the ability to lead an entire team. Can he lead an offense? Sure, I think he can. But I don't think he can rally the troops to really get down deep into the dirt and dig out those big wins. Like going into the Red River rivalry, ooh, it's a nice little tongue twister there. Going into that, those are always coin flip games, and I think Tom Herman really, that's where he gets his fan base, bravado from, because they'll win every once in a while, and I think Texas carries that in to the debate whether to fire him or not at the end of the season. If they win, sure, we won't fire him, but if he does lose, I think we should. And I think this year is the end of the Tom Herman era.
That's pretty strong. Lincoln, are you on the same page with Jack on that one?
I would have to say so.
Really?
The way I see it really is I kind of see Texas almost, I hate to be that guy, but almost like the Cowboys. Cowboys fans, it's almost like when they win, they're like, hey, we're going to be really good
Super
this
Bowl
year.
bound,
yeah,
baby.
Super Bowl, and then the rest of it goes downhill. So, yeah, I kind of sort of see a little resemblance there between the two Texas teams. So, yeah.
First of all, the Cowboys are always going to the Super Bowl. Second of all, this is a safe space where we don't talk about the Cowboys because it's sad. But, Michael, Tom Herman, hot seat. I don't think it's the year. Do you think it's the year?
Yeah, I don't think it's the year for Tom Herman to be on the hot seat. Like I said, he earned that job coaching at UT from what he did at U of H. So I feel like he's a great coach. He definitely has a lot of talented players, and Texas is known for football. So they always have like great recruitments and stuff like that. So I feel like it's just they need to execute. They have the talent there, but I feel like just give them some time, and as they practice and improve, they're going to start winning some games.
Yeah, I like that you brought up recruitments. Honestly, ever since Tom Herman came to Texas, I think he's really been getting those recruits in that maybe would have gone to Oklahoma or somewhere in the SEC. So I'm excited to see, if he can continue, his trend of being a good recruiter, and if he and his staff can really bring in those kids from Texas, because we just have a wealth of talent from right here in the state that are going out of state to play college football. We just need to keep them here in Texas. But coming up next, we're going to preview today's matchup against Southern Miss. Hopefully UNT can get the win, and we'll tell you what they need to do to get it right after this. And welcome back once again. I'm Sarah here with Michael, Lincoln, and Jack. Let's go ahead and talk about today's big matchup against Southern Miss. This series is tied 7-7, and this is their first conference game of the year. So it's a very important game for UNT to win. Michael, what do you think that they need to do to get the win today?
I feel like UNT has to lock down on defense in order to win this game today. Going against Jack Abram, who leads the nation in passing yards this year, so they're going to have to make sure to cover the receivers and also pressure him, have some blitz and different schemes to put pressure on him while he's under the pocket, just to make him hopefully make bad decisions while he's under center.
I mean, historically, we haven't been that great this year putting pressure on the quarterback, and you're totally right. That's going to be a huge key to the game. Jack, do you think we're capable of getting that done?
Ooh, that's better said than done. We are pretty much the worst defensive team in the entire country. We set the record against Houston Baptist for total yards offense with 720. Go to SMU, we give up 710 offensive yards to them. So our offense is on board. It's our defense that is taking us back. They are so good on offense. Jack Abraham is a good quarterback. He's steadily gotten better each and every year, but our defense has always been a concern. I don't think we can do anything. This game realistically is going to come down to who's going to get the other opposing team to fourth down quicker.
Yeah,
Mike?
I would have to agree. It's at the point. I'm looking at the camera. I'm begging you guys, please play well on defense today because we need it. Our offense has been very good. We've had two very good offensive weeks against Houston Baptist and SMU. On defense, allowed 344 yards versus SMU, 480 to Houston Baptist, and that's just, especially for an FCS team, that's not acceptable for a defense that should be performing a lot better than they are. So I think defense is a big problem that needs to be fixed very quickly.
I completely agree. I think the tough part for our defense today is going to be containing Jack Abraham. Like Jack said, he's actually the passing yard leader in the nation right now. He's got, I believe, 877 passing yards so far in the season. And through 3 games, that's pretty impressive. But they are 0-3, so obviously they're having some defensive struggles as well. Michael, my thought is that it's going to come down to whoever has that ball last. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to come down to whoever has the ball last, but also who puts more points on the scoreboard. Because we know that UNC's defense is really unreliable in what we've seen in the 2 games that we played so far. So whoever's offense plays the best is going to win this game, in my opinion. And hopefully UNT can get it done. Obviously, we didn't play it last week due to the game being canceled. So I feel like our guys are going to have rest and they practice well. So hopefully we can execute and win this game.
Yeah, that's a great point. Jack, do you think that extra rest, basically having an early extra bye week for this team, do you think that's going to help them in this game?
I do think it'll help a little bit. I think, their wear and tear of a season, will progress, but I think that week off really did help them. Unfortunately, we do have 4 starters that aren't going to play today. Some of them may have COVID. We don't know. We just know 4 won't play. But they have not a good defense. We don't have a good defense. So they gave up 430 yards rushing to Tulane, or I think it was Tulsa. They gave up 430 rush yards to Tulsa.
Yeah.
And so our offense is powerful. Their offense is powerful. Which defense is going to come through? I really do think this is where Seth Luttrell. This is where you flex your muscles and tell them that our offense is here. It's defense. It's time for y'all to step up. Because if y'all don't, this may be the end of the season right here.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And Michael, you said that offense was the key. I would have to agree with Jack here. I have to say defense is really the key because both teams have very strong defense or offenses. We've all established that. Defense is where it's really going to come down to because, as you said, both teams don't really have a strong defense, and so it's really who's going to be able to stop the powerful offense more. So it's going to be tough for us because defense has been a thorn in our side last year and this year, and it's just we're going to have to really step up on defense in order to make a difference today.
So it was a positive kind of getting a little bit of extra preparation for this game, especially as we've all talked about for our defensive squad. But Jack, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. Do both teams not have 4 starters out of the game?
Yeah, both teams actually do have starters not in the game. Southern Miss, but all of theirs are from positive tests to COVID. Ours are kind of, we have some past tracing issues and then we have some injured, but hopefully they're not, our big name guys like Deion Novell. Let's hope it's not them. Hopefully we get the Davis linebackers back because we really did miss them against SMU. We had to put in the younger, inexperienced guys, and that lack of experience showed. Shane Buechele picked us apart. That offense picked us apart. And Jack Abraham, he will pick us apart. So hopefully those injuries and that positive tests don't impact us as hard. But, time will tell. We won't know until game time.
What do you think, Lincoln?
Okay, I'm going to be honest. This happened in the homecoming show last year. So I was listening to Jack, and I forgot what the question was.
So man, that happens to the best of us. Honestly, it's
I'm
we got a
sorry.
lot of
I'm
players
sorry.
hey man, we got a lot of players for both squads out today. Do you think that that's really going to affect how both of these teams perform, really? But do you think it's going to affect us being able to get the win?
I would say that it's hard to tell because we don't really know who it is. If there are big name people, I don't think that they've announced it. I haven't seen anything about that, but I know we just have 4 people. I don't know who it is. If there are big name players, like you said, the Davis linebackers or any of our big receivers, then I think that will play a big role. But if it's just 4 players that don't really play a lot and haven't really seen the field a whole lot, then I don't think that'll really play a big difference. But we'll just have to see who the players are that are sick on our side.
What are your thoughts on that one, Michael?
Yeah, I agree with him. It's going to play a factor. Obviously, you don't know which players they are that are not playing, but I think it kind of offsets itself since that both teams are missing 4 players, so it's going to kind of offset itself, and it might be an even matchup in the game.
Honestly, I have confidence in this team. Again, we talked about Southern Miss's offense and how effective they've been able to be. But again, they're 0-3, and they're a conference opponent that we normally do decent against. The series is tied, so this is going to really kind of tell which team is coming out on top today. But my question for you guys is, who are the key players that are actually going to be in the game? Who are the key players for UNT, Jack?
Number one, I'm definitely going to have to say Oscar Attaway, our running back. Came out of nowhere, really didn't have any high expectations for him. Comes out against Houston Baptist, comes out against SMU, really leads the way for our offense. As I said earlier, Southern Miss does not have a good rush defense. So I think having that on our side, having a strong running back play going in, I do think that's a main player we're going to look out for. And also, I'm going to go with Seth Luttrell as a whole. This is where a good coach comes in. This is the turning point of the season. Yes, you had 2 games prior, but they weren't conference games. This is where the real season starts. And this is where Seth Luttrell needs to rally his troops. Hey, we lost last week against a rival. We lost bad, but let's rebound it. This is where it matters. And I think if Seth Luttrell can instill that into get that fire going, then I really do think we have a good chance at winning this game.
Yeah, and you said that their run defense is not great. Southern Miss run defense is not great. I think that will play a big role because our run game is actually very good. In my opinion, the past couple of weeks they've really shown out. So I think Attaway, basically their whole run game is pretty much going to play a big role. But my key players really are, it has to be the quarterback duo, Ani and Jason Bean. Really, the thing is, we still have a dual quarterback system in week 4, really, of the season?
Technically week 4.
Technically week 4, but
right.
Our 3rd game. And so at this point, most teams already have their main guy playing, and we still haven't found who that guy is. So I really think that the key to today's game is one of those quarterbacks has to step up and really just take control for the team and just turn this offense on and just beat this other highly offensive Southern Miss team.
I actually feel pretty good about the quarterback rotation that we have going around. There's some precedent for that in college football to kind of have your quarterback be by committee. If it works, it works. It seems to be working okay for us at this point. But Michael, I want to ask you who your key players for this game are. Is it quarterbacks or is it somebody else?
I'm going to have to agree with what Jack said. Knowing that Southern Miss struggles to stop the run and we have a great running game, it's going to be very crucial for us to get all of our running backs involved, especially Oscar Attaway. We've seen what he's done in the past 2 games. He absolutely is a beast running with the football. And also, when we get our running game going, that's when you can start opening up the field for play action, and we could just throw the ball deep down the field and hopefully score some touchdowns.
Yeah, I hope so. Listen, it's like we've been saying this entire show, it's really going to come down to the defense. I don't have a ton of confidence in our defense, but hopefully we'll be able to pull out that win. We're actually going to make our picks for this game and several other games coming up next in everybody's favorite prediction section, everybody's favorite segment, the prediction segment. So stick around, we're coming right back. Welcome back, and I just want to say thanks for joining us here today. Join us next week for our next show, but before we let you go, we're going to make some predictions. There's been a lot of great college football already played today. Still some good games coming up. Our first game we're going to talk about is Auburn versus Georgia. Fellas, I'm taking Auburn on this one. Lincoln?
Well, I'm going to have to go Auburn with this one. Really, Auburn played great. They forced turnovers against Kentucky, had 1 interception and 2 fumbles. Very efficient offense as well. They only got 10 third downs, really. Only got the third down 10 times. And so I really think that's going to play a key factor. Let's see. Oh, lost my spot. There we go. Georgia, on the other hand, had 2 turnovers against Arkansas, who's not really known for being a good team in the SEC. And so I really think that efficient offense and defense is really going to give Auburn the win.
Jack, what about you?
I'm going to go with Auburn as well. Georgia is the favorite. They're about an 7.5 point favorite. They're at Georgia as well, but I think Auburn's going to come in and beat them. As Lincoln said, Georgia didn't look too impressive against Arkansas. Arkansas is unfortunately kind of the bottom of the barrel of the SEC, and Georgia didn't look the way they were. Georgia's also on their second quarterback as well, Stetson Bennett. I think Bo Nix and Auburn has the advantage there. Auburn's already battle-tested. They played a ranked Kentucky team. It was a really good game, and Auburn came in and handled business. So I think Auburn knows how to win already. They know their identity, and I think they go into Athens and beat Georgia at home.
Yeah, you guys know I love a good home field advantage. Had to take Auburn on that one today, though, because the home field advantage is not quite an advantage this year. So we got 3 for Auburn. Michael, where you stand?
I'm going to have to go with Georgia on this one. I feel like they're going to protect their home field. They have a great defense, and they have a great O-line to protect their second-string quarterback. So hopefully they can get it done today.
All right, so Michael's going for that home field advantage. Connor, who do you have?
Yeah, this is going to be a great game, great low-scoring game. You have 2 really good defenses. In fact, I think Georgia has the best defense in the country and the best defense that college football has seen in one season since maybe 2011 LSU and Alabama. As y'all remember, those 2 defenses were tremendous for those teams that season. In fact, they were so good that all their offense had to do was just keep their defense off the field for a little bit, give them a little bit of a break, not turn the ball over. As you remember, LSU and Alabama were 1st and 2nd in the country in turnover margin that year. Forced a lot of turnovers defensively too. And I think that's what you're going to see out of Georgia this year. Auburn, again, is a really good, tremendous defensively as well. But I think a lot of the talk with Auburn this year has been with Bo Nix and how he can improve from the freshman frustration to a sophomore sensation. I wouldn't say he's going to improve that much, but I'm going to go with Georgia in this game. It's going to be a great low-scoring game. We've seen a lot of high-scoring games today and so far in college football this year, as what we've seen in these modern days of college football. But I think this is going to be a great low-scoring game with the Deep South's oldest rivalry. I'll go with Georgia here at home. Sarah?
All right, Michael, Connor's with you on that one, so that's usually a good sign. We'll see how it shakes out. Next one is going to be Oklahoma, Iowa State. I'm picking OU on this one. They're coming off that really embarrassing loss to Kansas State, and obviously, Jack, I know they're going to need a win before they play Texas next week. So I'm taking OU. Lincoln, who you got?
Well, as much as I hate this with every fiber in my body, I'm going to have to go Oklahoma as well. Spencer Rattler's just playing lights out. He's had 4 touchdowns in both games so far this season, 387 yards against Kansas State. Iowa State allowed almost 400 yards against TCU last week, and so I think Rattler's really going to pick apart this Iowa State defense, so I'm picking OU.
Jack, who you got?
I'm going with the Sooners as well. Spencer Rattler had Oklahoma as a team had a rough week last week. Spencer Rattler, freshman coming in, has high expectations. I think that's has a burden lifted off his shoulders now. I think he goes into Ames and handles business. Brock Purdy, his stock has gone nothing but down since the year started. I think the struggles continue for Iowa State. I think Oklahoma goes into Ames and beats them.
All right, Michael, who are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go Oklahoma on this one. Although they did lose last week against Kansas State, I feel like they're going to bounce back. They're going to come playing really hungry, and they're going to beat Iowa State. Iowa State hasn't really been good ever since I've been watching college football, so definitely going to have to go Oklahoma on this one.
All right, so we got 4 for Oklahoma. Connor, are you with us?
Yeah, this is another great game. But what Oklahoma can't afford to do in this game is 2 things. One, what they did against K-State last week in the second half, and what Texas did today against TCU, which is maybe look ahead to next week's game. But Oklahoma, I do believe they're going to bounce back. I'll take Oklahoma in this game. You know, for me, with games like this, when you think the upset, or when you know the upset's going to happen, when you have a really strong feeling for it, it ends up not happening, and it ends up being another team. Well, I think that other team was last week with K-State. I think Oklahoma's going to bounce back. I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be a dominating fashion. Iowa State's going to play very, very good defense. They're going to slow the pace down. It's going to start off slow, and the next thing you know it, you're going to have lots of points in this game, just like with TCU and Iowa State last week. So I do think Iowa State keeps it close, but I'll go with the Sooners to bounce back strong this weekend. Sarah?
Air Force, just me. All right, next one we got is Navy, Air Force. I'm taking Navy on this one. Might be a little bit of a homer. Had a grandfather that went to Annapolis. Lincoln, are you with me?
I am not. I'm going to have to take the other side and go with Air Force for this one.
Jack, what about you?
I'm going Air Force. Navy's look like one of the sloppiest teams of college football right now. Air Force, first game of the season. I think they start off the year with a bang.
All right, Michael?
I'm going to have to go with Navy on this one. This is their third game, so their feet has already been wet, but Air Force is their first game, so I don't think they're going to win this one.
Yes, Michael, I definitely agree with you. And Connor, who you got?
I'll go with Navy. Air Force is in a pretty big rebuilding year. It's going to be a close game. These triple option teams going at it, but give me Navy in this game. Sarah?
Okay, all right, we got LSU Vanderbilt. I'm taking LSU. They're coming off, again, a really embarrassing loss to Mississippi State, Michael's big surprise team of the year. So I'm taking LSU. Lincoln, what about you?
Well, y'all know me. I got to go underdogs. I went with Marshall a couple weeks ago. They ended up getting the win against App State, so I'm going to go Vanderbilt with this one.
Jack?
I'm not feeling as confident as you. I'm going LSU. Coach Orgeron, he's bringing them back. I think they win.
Coach O, go Tigers. Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go LSU on this one. After getting upset by Mississippi State, they're going to come with vengeance and ready to win this game.
And Connor, real quick, who you got?
We talked about Oklahoma, or at least I talked about Oklahoma responding well. Look for LSU to do the same thing this weekend. Vanderbilt's offense is a little bit in question this year, though I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game to start off with. Vanderbilt's got 11 starters back on defense this year, but give me the Tigers to cover in this game, and I think they show people what they're capable of as the season progresses. Sarah?
All right, and last game of the week, we got UNT versus Southern Miss. I'm taking UNT. Lincoln?
Guys, please play defense today. I'm taking UNT.
Jack?
GMG, baby. Mean Green.
Go Mean Green. Michael, who you got?
Go Mean Green. Got to go UNT. The rest is going to pay off.
And spoiler alert, it's a clean sweep. I know Connor took UNT as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we pull out that win today. If you want to find more, follow us on Twitter at NTTV Sports. Find us on our YouTube page, also NTTV Sports. And join us again next week right here. Thanks, guys.